Hello friends and everyone, you're welcome back again to Netcode-Hub channel. I am very happy to see you here again. Now in this video, we are going to talk about creating an expense tracker. This is a mini project. We have been doing this mini project for Blazor and also for .NET MAUI, which is the mobile applications. So if you haven't watched any of the videos, check the playlist. We have a separate playlist for Blazor mini project. We have same for .NET MAUI. We have lessons that you can take. They are short mini project that you can do. Today, we're going to talk about this expenses tracker. Now, what actually is this expenses tracker? What this application is going to do here is it's going to log expenses, and you're going to save these expenses into database. We're going to have some few graphs in it, as you can see, and you're going to have some logic in it to get us the first 6 months, the yearly expenses, the current one, week, and etc. Okay, so if you check here, if you check the dashboard, that is what we have here. Now you can see we have this design here is a dashboard for this expense tracker. This is for yearly expenditure. So from 2019, the amount that we spent, 2021, 2022, and 2023. This is a monthly balance that you have here. Now, when it comes to this is a monthly item that you've made. Expenses that if you've done. Let's say this electricity, water, housekeeping, rent, for example, and a whole lot that you can actually add. So this is for just monthly for the current month. And now this is for yearly. So for the whole year, January, how many or how much did you spend? February and to the rest. So it tells you, it gives you the details or the amount that you spent for each. You also have notes that you can actually write something in. You can add note here. You can pass in your notes and then you can save it. You can choose the day that you want to execute the task. You can keep it over here. Aside from that, let's see, you can also delete it as well. So if I try to delete this, you can see that is off. It is off now. Okay. Now you can see it's no more. Let me just scroll and see. Yeah, it's no more. Now the next thing you can see, we can also update fund. So you can click on this and you can also update the fund. So that is for that. Next, we have this graph over here, and you can see from here you can also add expenses. So with this, if I click on this add expenses, it's going to navigate me to a component whereby I can actually add these expenses. Also, when it comes to this place, you can also manage these expenses. So you can edit this. You can just add and a whole lot. You can also delete it. So for example, if I want to delete this, so let's add one expenses. So this is going to be other. Now this other is going to be 150.55, and now the date I'm going to choose, today's date is today, so I'm going to choose yesterday, 24th. So I'm going to click on add expenses and you can see added, so it is being saved. Now as soon as I'm done, if I go to, you can see other expenses must be around, you see that is over here. So other expenses, and I can see that's the year and that's the amount that I provided. So if I go to the home, you can see we have the yesterday expenses and it has been added over here. Let's also add another expense and see. So if it's going to add up to this. So here shows the amount or the yesterday expense that you made. So let's see, let's add one more. So this is another one. And now here, I'm just adding 20. Let's see the date for yesterday, 24th. Add this, save. Now if I click on home, you can see from here that it has added it as 170.55. Okay, and this is for last week. So this gets us the last week expenses, and now this gets us the amount that you have to pay for the whole month. And you know, with this, you have the graph over here, which tells you the amount what you expense that you made for that month, and that's the current month. So maybe you can put in the current month here or monthly expenses details. And I can see from this the yearly. So this one tells you yearly amount that you spend. And then this tells you the whole years, 2019, 2021, and etc. amount that you spend within the year. So it's just a simple expenses tracker that you can actually create. Okay, so let's start. We're going to start by first creating a whole new project for Blazor Server applications. And I'll take note, when I'm done with this project, I'm going to leave at the GitHub. So you can also go in there, check the description, and you can also clone the project and I'll review it as well. Maybe I believe you can add a whole lot, just a mini project. So you're not doing nothing much. Simple one to actually introduce you to some components such as Syncfusion components, and also Syncfusion graphs, data grid, and etc. So I believe this is going to give you some small insight in that. All right, so I also put the link at the description if you want to buy me a coffee. If you're okay with it and want to buy me a coffee, I'll be so much happy to get it or to receive it from you. Okay, so let's get going. So first we're going to launch, and I have to close this, and that is the whole project here. I have the project already, so I'm not going to do the typing. Since I have it, I'll just copy and paste so we can just go faster. But don't worry, I'm going to explain to you. Okay, if you don't want to type too, don't worry, check the description, go to the GitHub, and I'll clone it or download the source code. You can just also import it or open it into the Visual Studio, and you're going to have it as well. All right, so let me just close everything from this here, and now let's create a new. So that's going to be a demo Blazor Server expenses tracker. That's going to be the project name. So Blazor Server, and that's going to be demo, or let me make it Blazor Server expenses tracker. So that's going to be the project name, and I get up to you, so you can just search for this and you're going to have it. Okay, so I'll just choose, and I'm using 7.0 from the framework, so I'm going to click on create. Let's wait for this to get created. All right, so now that the project is created, since you're going to use a third party of Syncfusion components and also SQLite database, we have to install some packages. So let's get going to that. Now, the first thing that we're going to install here is I want to install the package, and that's going to be for Entity Framework call. So let me grab this package from this. And now in here, we are going to install that. So this is what I'm going to do. I'll go to Solution Explorer, then I'll just unload this project, and I'm going to have this item group, and I'll paste in this, and that's going to be for this entity framework called design. So we have to install that first. So that is it for the database. We need this. Now for Syncfusion component, we need to install grid. So let's add this, and also we need to install, I think, input. Let's add that. Then let's install pop-ups as well, and buttons. And we need to install also this, that is a stock chart. We need to install themes, and let's install charts itself. We need also calendar. Yeah, so these are the packages that we need to install. So pause the video and try to install this and you get packages. So I'll just reload the project with dependencies so I can install all the dependencies with it. Aside from that, go to dependencies, and if I click on manage NuGet packages, you're going to see that all these packages are going to be installed over there, and that is what we're going to use. So try to pause the video and install these packages so we can move on with it. Yeah, so they are installed here, and let's build the project to see if everything is in order. Alright, so it is set now. Now let's let's go in there and create a connection string. So we do that in the app setting.json. So in here, and I'm going to name this as demo expenses db. So since you're using SQLite, that's what we're going to do. Aside from that, we have to create our configuration, or that's the appdb context. So with that, let's create a folder here inside this data folder, and now let's name it as configuration. So inside this configuration, let's create a model, and this model is going to be this appdb context model. Now in that, we need the following constructor, and also this db set. So this has to inherit from db set. That's the db context. Now this db context is coming from the entity framework call that we installed. Okay, so we need to create these packages. Okay, so let's create these packages here. So when I was doing it, they're supposed to be out because I'm not using this. Okay, so we need these 3 packages, and that's what we're going to have a table for. So expenses table, note, and also fund table. All right, so let's do that quickly. And Solution Explorer, so we create a folder and name it as models. So let's create a class, and now the name is going to be for expenses. Now with our expenses, we need the following properties here. So you make sure it is public. Okay, and now let's do it for the next one, and that's going to be for note and fund as well. So appdb, you can just go in there, copy this, and solution. I click on models. Let's add a new one. So notes. Now for notes, let's have only 3 properties. So it depends on how you want it to be done. Okay, so this are just using 3 properties for now, but maybe who knows, you can use more than that, and it is allowed. Now let's add the fund as well. So we add a new model here, and that's going to be for fund. Now for the fund, just only 2 properties here, because we're going to handle our money that you pass in that you want our system to check with it. So we have this. Now when you go to appdb context, control period, let's include the namespace, and now everything is set. The next thing to do here is to register our DB context so we can perform migration. So Solution Explorer, we do that in the program.cs file. Before the app build, let's paste in this. So you can see we are calling this appdb context, we are using SQLite, and we are calling the default connection that we created in the app settings app.json. Okay, and that is what we are using here. Now everything is set. Let's build this project so we can perform migration. So build project. So succeeded, and now let's go to package manager console. If you're not finding yours here, click on tools, manage to get packages, and I click on the console here. Now this, you're going to say ls, and let's copy the project. So let's change directory to the project to cd. Let's paste this ls. Now we're inside the project. So .NET EF migrations. Then let's add first. So that's the name I'm using. Well, supposed to be migrations, not migration. So we're gonna have error here. Yeah, so command recognize. Let's make a change quick. So it's supposed to be migrations. All All right, so succeeded. Now let's update database. So .NET ef database, then update the name that we provided as first. Okay, so you can see that successfully done. Now when we check our Solution Explorer, we can see we have a folder called migrations, and these are the files that we have here. Alright, so now we have the next thing to do here is we have to create a service to handle that, the communication between the database and the user. So to do that, let's create a folder and name it as services in this data folder. So add a new folder, and that's going to be services. Now let's create an interface for that. So we need an interface and an implementation class. So right click on this and now add a new class. So this class is going to be, we're going to choose interface, and now the name that I want to use here is service interface. We are going to also choose or create a new class, and now that's going to be an implementation class. So right click on the same service and now add, this time around it's going to be class. The name is going to be service implementation, then add this. Okay. Now when you go to this interface, what are the properties or what are the methods that we're going to get there? So let's see, these are the methods that we need. So we need add or update expenses. You get all expenses. This is clear, we're not going to use this. So we need delete expenses, and we need add fund, get available fund, add note, delete note, and now get note. So these are the methods that we need. Oh, so this is supposed to be inside the interface, not the implementation. So let's move it from here to this interface. That's right. Now let's go to the implementation. And you know, first of all, this implementation has to inherit from this interface. So the implementation is over here, and you know it has to inherit from the interface. And aside from that, we need a constructor whereby we have to inject our AppDB context. So in such case, we create it as connection. Now the next thing that we have here is we have to implement all the interfaces. So the first method that we are trying to implement here, that is a get method. So this is get or add new expenses. Yeah, we haven't got into the get method yet. It seems I'm rushing. Okay, so that is the add new expenses. And I can see here it is add or update. So it is performing two tasks. If the ID is 0, it means you're adding a new one. If the ID it is not 0, that's greater than 0, it means you want to update. Then we do that and return this to the user. All right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about here after adding this, we get our expenses. And you know, get by using this lambda expression, we can just use one line of statement to get that. And now for this, we can use, let me take off delete. So we have this delete expenses as well. And let me copy the rest here because they're not much. So from here, let's see. These are the next one that we have. Now let's go through quick. We've done this add or add new expenses. We also add get expense. That is just one line of statement. Now this is delete. So we first find from database if it is there. If it is there, then remove it and now save that and return true. Very simple one. Now you can see we are adding funds. So here we want to get all funds from the database. Okay. So we want to get where the fund amount is greater than 0. If it is not found, it means you're now about to add a new fund. Then we're going to save it. So we're going to save it. But before we save it, we check that if the fund amount is not less than 0. Okay. So it's not less than 0. So it must be. No, here we are saying that if the fund amount is less than 0, then we are returning this. So we are returning just numbers over here. So inside our response, you're going to check these numbers and our display message related to what we want to display so now the number comes in. Okay. So you want to accept numbers or amount figures which are positive numbers, not negative. That's what it's doing. So if the data is found already, then update it. So you can see we are using this plus or equal sign. We can just, because we are having current amount is equal to this already found amount that we have from database over here plus the current one. Then we save it. We assign it to the value here and now we save. All right, so that's what we're doing for this add fund. So as soon as I click on add fund, it's going to add a fund. Now this get available fund. So get all to to list and now return or find the sum. So you can see we are using this select. So select only the amount. Now you can see when you check the table, it has only two properties, ID and an amount. That's for the fund, ID and amount. So we are selecting only this amount here and now sum it and return. Very simple one as well. The next one here, it is the add note. So we are adding notes. I hope you know this already. Adding note and now save it. And now delete note. So get from the database. If it is found, delete it. If it is not, return this not found. Now get note async. So get all note async. So these are the services that we need for our application to work. Good. Now we have this. Let's save this. And the next thing that we need to do here is we have to inject this into our program.cs file. So let's create dependency injection. Let's register the service. So before the build take note, add this one there, service interface control period. Let's add the reference service interface. Yeah, it's already added. All right. So now we have this. What's the next thing to do? We are here to create a component to call these services. The first component that we're going to create here is going to be for this main one. And here I'm going to talk about the first one, that's the manage expenses. So this manage expenses, let's go in there and do that as well. So quickly, so it's in Explorer. Now we go to pages, right click on the pages and let's add this component, result component. The name is going to be manage expenses and let's add that. Now inside this manage expenses, what are the things that we're going to need first? But first of all, I believe we have to create our sidebar so we can just configure that before we create our component. So let's have a look at this. Let's first create our sidebar and we do that. Pages, add a new component, and there's going to be sidebar as well. So sidebar.razor. Now in this sidebar, we are having this Syncfusion sidebar. So we need the Syncfusion navigation for this. Okay, so for a sidebar, this is what we need. We are using this SF sidebar from the Syncfusion, and there's a position. Is it open? Is it dark? Okay, and this is the background color that we want, as you watch or you saw in the demo version. And you can see we have only two. Here you can see we are using this chart content, and we have only two links. Okay, so you know, this is a bootstrap class that we are using v-stack. It means vertical or stack in order. So that is why we are having it in line. We set the gap to 4. So these are just a header. And now once we are done with this, you know, we have to go to my program. Not the my program, I like saying my program. That's going to be the main layout. And now with that main layout, I want us to make some changes over there. So solution. Go to this main layout, and where is mine? Go to shared folder, and that's the main layout. So I'm going to clear everything from here. We don't want the default one. Let's have our own. So you can see we are using this sidebar over here that we created. Okay, and now here, this are project name. So here is going to be the Blazor general. No, that's going to be our Blazor server tracker. Yeah, so. And that is what, and you can see we have this sidebar component that we created injected. And now here we are going to use a SF dialog provider. So we have to also add this to the link so we can have access to the service to display information to user. This has been repeated twice, so let's clear that one. Yeah. So we are done with that. Now let's go back to this manage expenses. And now in that manage expenses, what are we going to have in that component? The first one is, maybe let's first inject our import first. So the properties or the using statement that we are going to be using, let's put all of them in the import section. So solution, go to the import, and now in here, let me just paste this here, and let me copy one of this, and let's see. So let me change the project name to the current one. So you can see we have this model services that we created, and these are all Syncfusion links: calendar, grid, navigations, pop-up, metadata, data annotations, and etc. All right, so these are the things that we need. Make sure you put them here. else you have to put them on top of each component, and that's going to make it so not nice. Okay, we're not going to do that. Okay, so let's go back again to this manage expenses. I'm going to clear everything here. Now the first thing that we're going to do is from this manage expenses, let's first have our routes, and now we're going to have two routes here. You're going to accept parameter route because you're going to have this non-parameter one. So here you can pass in parameter to perform a specific task. And now when parameter is not specified to, you want to perform a specific task. Don't worry, later on you're going to understand what this actually means. Now let's inject our interface, our navigation manager, and also the dialog service. So we have all these three injected. The first thing is let's first create our row. And now this row, we're going to, since we want to put this in the middle, we have to use this bootstrap classes, and there's going to be the okay, this here we're using the style. We can create a separate style sheet for this, but this is a demo, so I am using this inline style. That's not the best, but you have to put all this in the style, or you can just put them beneath. Okay, but don't worry, this also works as well. So in here we're going to have the first method in here, and with this, let me paste in here so we talk about it. The first one here, you can see we are using SF data grid. So this grid, we are calling this expenses name, expenses amount, expenses date. So these are the components that we want to display. Now when we check this expenses, we're going to have it down here at the code section. So the first one that we are going to do here is, when it comes down to the code section, let me just grab all the code section here so we can have a look at it whilst I explain. Okay, so I have the code section, but don't worry, let's add the design first, then we come back to the code section as well. Okay, so aside from adding this, we're going to add our style and also our div, and this div is going to be the dialog box. So dialog box is what you're going to have for the dialog or for adding components. Okay, now you see we are having this grid first, and that's going to be the table that you saw earlier on. So we have the following columns that we need. You can see here grid columns. So we have name, amount, and date added, and these are the other properties or the feature that we want to add. Okay, so amount. Now this is in dollars, so I don't want to use Ghana cedis anymore because I keep using that. Now to check or to use the dollar, I think you can use format, and on this format you set it to C2, I think so. So C2, you're going to get as a dollar symbol. Okay, now we have that. As soon as you pass in only C, if your keyboard layout is in the UK, you're going to have the pound. If it's in the US, you're going to have the dollar as well. Passing here, you're making a specific symbol to use. We have our date, and the format is only date, and the type is column type.date. All right, so that's what we have. Now when you come down here, you can see we have a div target, and now here we're using this SF dialog box, and that's what I click on to show. You can see we have this visibility set to show display box. We have making as a reference. There is a wait, and now there is an event. So in case I click on close, what should happen? Okay, now you can see I have this edit form within, and that is my edit form. We start from here and end over here. We have this module as expenses container, and this is the method that you handle when everything is in place. We have the first card body, and you can see we're having this as container, and here the name is for expenses name, and this is going to be the expenses amount. And now you can see from here we have an SF date picker from the calendar that we installed from the Syncfusion, and now you can see we are exposing a method known as value change. That's the event as what value change event. So when the value changes, we want to call this, and we have an immediate variable to handle that over here. These are validation messages that we know, and that is it. So you can see from the footer we have this button as add expenses. And now when you come here, you can see we have this code. This is a parameter. So as soon as you pass in the ID, this is going to handle that from the parameter. And now when you check this here, we have an item model. So this item model, it is going on with this model over here. So you want to add the following tools: add, delete, and now edit. So here, instead of add new, so why do I add city instead of expenses? So instead of expenses, see what I did. So I'm just going to, so this is going to be edit. So delete expenses, And now here going to be edit expenses. Yeah. Okay, so these are the icons that we're going to use for. Now you can see from here we are calling a method known as load data. So where from this method? Now this method is nowhere than the method beneath. So if you check here, load data here, so we see I have that's going to be the comment on each. Here, load data from the method as soon as the page loads. So we're going to have this toolbar, and now there's a get all list of data, and that's for this. So this comment should have been for this method. So when you call this method, that's what you want to do. Now this is going to be populate the tools. So populate the data grid tools. Okay. Now the next thing here, you can see we get a list of all expenses. So load data from this, and you can see we are having this service. We call this service get all expenses, and we assign it to this. We loop through and we add. Okay, we can also add it straight away, but at times you can also loop through. Now you can see from here we are arranging in descending order. So if I add today, if I add the current will be on top because the date is in descending order. Alright, so free from here that you also add or update expenses. That is when this event is clicked on top over here. When this button is clicked to send, you want to handle it in this way. So you can see we are receiving this flag and message. So we call this service, we pass in the method over here, and now from here we are checking. So you can see we are using this dialog service to alert. So here I'm going to give us a pop-up, okay, because we've registered the dialog service. Well, so we have to finish one thing. So before we can use this dialog service, we have to also register that in the program.cs file. So let's do that before you forget. Now you can see we put it inside this main layout here. That's right. And when done, we have to also put it at the, you have to register the service too. Good. So let's do this. And yeah, we're also done with it. We save that and we now return to the main. So after the flag is going to return, if it is true, then display this to the user. Okay. And also empty the container and now hide the dialog box, because as of now, if you are done adding a new one, hide the dialog box. You don't want to show it again unless you click on add new again. Okay. And navigate to the page and now refresh it. So here reload, we set the reload to true. So it's going to force reload everything, set everything to normal state, and now get us to this component. That is it itself. I believe so. Maybe that is itself. Okay, so that is for the handle saved. And the next thing here, you can see that is for the date. We expose the date, the SF date to this method. So as soon as this value changes, you want to handle that. We assign this date value to the current value that has changed, and we assign this date to the container, that is the expenses container. That is what we are sending to the service. Okay, and the next thing is the toolbar click. So if add, if edit is, or if delete is click, what do I want to do? If add is click, you want to show the dialog box. If edit is click, you want to show the dialog box when user selected no row. Display this to the user. As soon as user select a row, then set the row data to the current container and now display the dialog box. Okay, so where from this selected row, where is it happening? It is happening here, selected row. So we set this current row that has been selected, we set the value to this. And now this selected row, this initialization is over here. That is a selected row. You see it's an expenses. Now when you check this SF grid, we have selected row exposed. So this handler exposes. As soon as the user click on any of the row, this handler, this event going to handle. Okay, so that is it for that. And yeah, when the handle is also, when the SF dialog box is closed, hide it, and now set this display to false and now hide it. So this is all that we are doing from this manage expenses. So I believe now we're done with this. We can run this again and see what we have now. Alright, you're having a strange error here. Yeah, there's no service. Yeah, that's right, because you have to register Syncfusion. So let's go to program.cs file and I'll do that over there. So quickly, you go to our settings and in here, let's register the Syncfusion Blazor here. I believe this is solved, so let's check it out again. Alright, so we are in here, but we are not focusing on this because you haven't tackled the index. You want to navigate to this manage expenses. Manage expenses. Now let's see if that component is available. Alright, so we have it over here, but as you can see from this, there's no what we expected from this. Yeah, because we have not added the references, that is the Syncfusion CSS style, and also the style sheet, and also JS file. So quickly, where can we find this? We go back to this place, and that's going to be the home host.cshtml, I think so, and we have to do that in there. So we do it over here from this host. Now here, let's paste in these two guys here. So let me just separate them so you can see it well. Put them here. Yeah, so I think when we try to save it again, reload this has to work, but I think we have to rerun it again. Alright, so you can see that it is here fixed. Now let's click on this. That's going to be the manage expenses. So when we click on that, let's see. Let's navigate us to that component where we have a data grid. Yeah, and that's what we have. Okay, so we can now add data here and see. So you can see we have the pop-up. Now let's see if I decide to pass in electricity bill. I can now choose the amount over here. Maybe 478.66. I can choose the date. Yeah, I have the date over here, and today I can choose the date over here, and I click on add expenses. Now we have saved. So this is set. Now we have to register for Syncfusion license. That is right, but don't worry, you want to forget that. So you can see we have this. That is a pound symbol. Okay, so we have this set over here. If I click on this, I can also edit it. You see, I can edit it over here as well, and I can also delete it. Whoa. So I can also select the same thing and also delete. I usually want to do this. If I click on yes, you can see it is no more there. So this is working. And let's work on the home section. Okay, how do you work on the home? Let's do that quickly. So let's navigate to the home section, Explorer, and we click on this index. And I want to clear everything from here. So the very first thing that we're doing here is we create our route and I inject our service. So these are the services that we need: a dialog service, navigation, and also the service that we created. Now let's set up a header. So we have this header component, and that's what you see as dashboard on top. So you can see we have the header dashboard, and you can see we are using this expense tracker. We are using there's an open iconic dashboard icon. You set the display tab and also the font family here. Now we are here. I am using the font family, different font family here, and that's called the Zayana. So do you know how to include font family to the project? Let me tell you quickly. So if you want to do that quickly, what you have to do here is you have to install the font family. So let's see where it is. You have to go to www root folder, and now let's have a folder in there, www root folder, that is it. And here right click, and I can just paste this. You know, I've added a folder called font. Now if I click on it, you can see I have this Zayana regular TTF. So this is the font. If you want to download this font, go to internet, type in this font, and you can download this font. And I do the same thing as well. But when you're done with this, you're not done. The next thing to do here is register this font. So how can you register this font? We go back to the site.css, and that is the CSS folder. Open it. You can see we have the site.css, and now to do that, we have to register the font here, and we're going to use the font face. So we'll go to down, and our font face, and now paste this. So font face, then the font family is going to be Zayana, and now make sure you pass in the location, and the format here it is through type. That's a TTF, through type format. Add it. Now format is done. So you're going to have that look like design, okay, with these characters. All right, so now we have this, we're inside this home now. So whilst we are here, where's the index? That is it. Okay, so this is the dashboard header. Now the next thing that we are going to do aside from this is we're going to create a row, and now that's where our components or the whole thing is going to happen, our chart and everything. So we also have this another row. Now let's go through quick. So there's another row here. Okay, so you can see it has a row open and close, and now you can see we have this column MD12, so entire page. Inside we also have another row, and we are dividing this also the same thing as 12. Okay, and first of all, we are having a card. Now the card, we are having this row inside. So within the card, we are having a row. Now the row, we are dividing the row into, I think, 3 or 4. Yeah, that's a 3. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3. So 3, 4, and 3. Supposed to be 12, but here it's supposed to going to be, I think, 10, right? So 7 plus 3, 10. We have other 2, so we can use to move it in and out. So that's for the row. Now with each row, that's going to be the first one. Now with each one, you see we are having this SF tab. The tab here, it is for Syncfusion, and we are having this accumulation chart. So we have to populate for this month. We have to populate for month in last year. So last year month as well. Okay, and that's for the monthly and also yearly. So we have this date this month, and the name that we are using here, it is a name, that's a model name, and the amount that we need to provide here. Now to get this name and amount, we have to create a separate model for this. And now the first model I'm going to create here, it is expenses model for month. So it is going to handle only expense model for month. So, and this is what we're going to use in the accumulation chart or the chart. So this is purposefully for the chart. Okay, so this is the name. And now in here, we want to have these properties under that. And that's what we're going to use to populate the chart. So you have an ID. You're going to have the month name, the month number. So if you're going to be maybe January, you're going to have 1 here. You're going to have the name January over here and the total amount. Aside from that, you have to get the same model for year. So for the year, you want to have the month name and now the amount. So class, and that's in the expenses model for the year. And now you're going to have the year ID. So we don't even actually need the year ID, but I can actually bring it over there. We need just year number and also the amount. Okay, so these are the models that we need, or as a DTO that we need. Now let's go back to the index. So you can see here, we are going to use this amount and we specify the X and the Y axis. So X axis, we need name, Y axis, we need amount. So X is the horizontal one, Y axis is the vertical one. So the horizontal one, we're going to use the name, whilst the horizontal one, we're going to use the amount to display. Okay, these are the properties that we can actually set, enable tooltip, and etc. We are making a copy of this, the same thing over here, and now this time around, we are using the model, the binding model here is going to change. We are using for month and now the total amount because we want to display this expenses model for the year. We need the expense model for the year. We need what the year and then the total amount. Expense model for the month, you can have the month, you can have the month number, you can have the total amount. And that is what we are doing exactly here. So we are using the name and now the amount. And now the name and the amount is over here. So we're going to use the month name, okay, and then the amount. But this is not for this expense model for the month. This is going to be, this one is just an expense model during the month, okay. So for the month, it's going to happen soon. Now let's check it out. The next one here, we are looking through the notes. So anytime that you have notes, you want to get the notes. You can see here, you are creating a card, the same row, and dividing the row into 2, 9, 1, making 12. And you can see here, we are adding this delete icon. As soon as I click on it, I want to delete the note. And there's a description to display, and this is a date. All right, so these are the Bootstrap classes that I copied from the Bootstrap site. So you can just go in there and do the same, but don't worry, this code is going to be available, so you can just clone this and I'll loop through as well. You can see we are having this height, setting the height over here, and then the overflow Y, that's the Y axis, we want to scroll. So when it overflows, hide the rest so we can scroll it up. Okay, So this is what we are doing here from the first and the second phase. So we are adding our chart. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to add our SF dialog. So we can have access to this add amount, add funds, and also add expenses. Okay, so the same section with the same index, we want to have this. And the same thing that I copied from the manage expenses. So we are having the first one. So add or update expenses dialog box. So here, this is not going to be expenses. This is just add funds. So in case I want to add funds, you see my fund, and this is the event to handle that. We have the amount that is supposed to enter. We have the button as well. And also when it comes to the next one, there is the add note. In case I want to add note, just add the note title, add the choose date, and I add the message. So that's the input text area. Okay, so that's what we have here. So we have two dialog boxes for fund and also for adding of notes. Now let's check out and see. We have to have these classes because that is what this demand for this SF dialog box. It needs this. Let's do that. And now the next thing here is we first have to create the list of expenses to handle that in the code. So at code. So that is it at code here. We have to create this to handle that. Control KD. Okay. So this is a list that we are creating. Aside from this list, we have to also create another list to handle the month in the last year and also the current month. So in here, we do that here. And that's going to be the month here for month in last year and also the year's data. Aside from this, what we're going to do here is when the page initializes, you want to call this method load data. And now away from this load data, so this is a load data method. So this is a load data method. We are getting the data from the database, from the service, and I will set all these to now when they have content because you are going to populate them. So after populating this, because this is what all of these depends on. So if this is null, it means you have to clear everything here. Everything will be null. If it's not null, then call this method. So away from this method, so this is a method that we need to call down here. So it has to be outside here. Now this method, the first thing that we are doing, let's minimize this. The first thing that we are doing from this method here is we are grouping the data by year. Okay, we loop through and I will check. We want to grab populate only the last year. So you can see the add years. We subtract one from the year, so we can have the last year. Populate it over here and I'll add it to this last year list that we created. So this is the last year list that we created over here. Populate all years data. So we want to populate all years data. We have all years data set over here, and I will loop through the group data here. And now since we have all the year group by year, we can definitely add it straight ahead. So add item to the year. You're going to have all years added. Now we want to populate for only this month, and that's the list that we have this month. So we're going to check if today's day.month, okay, is equal to let's check it right here. We are saying that if the table date column dot month is equal to today's day dot month, and if the table's column dot year is equal to today's year, forget about the day, okay, then it means this data it is part of within this month, then grab it. So as soon as you get it, call this method get available fund, get yesterday's expenses, and then get last week data. We're going to get that. The next one here is group by month with last year record and total the amount. So we want to also grab, we want to deduce the year into months. So we have to group into months. Remember that we've grouped all of them into years over here. Okay, so we have to group them into months. We want to group only the last year into months. So as you can see from your last year data, group by month, and now make a selection of this. So this is the key here, is going to be the month, and now sum up all the values or the amount. When it comes to here, once you have the month, we must have a duplicated month in maybe one data could have 1 month, and could also have the same month. Therefore, we have to group them in month also. So you group them in month, and now you sum up the whole month. So if January is appearing 2 times, you're going to sum up the January data together and now pick one data or one January. And that's what we are doing over here. So aside from that, we look through it. We create a new expense model format for the month. And now here, to get the month name, you have to get this culture info.current culture info.datetime format.get month name. So you pass in the month number, and it's going to retrieve its name. So if you pass in 1, it's going to be January. If you pass in 6, it's going to be June, and etc. And now we get the amount and also the current or the integer number of the month. We add it to this month in last year. So you have this list, month in last year. Okay, we add it. And now here, group by years and total the amount. So here we're grouping all by years over here, and now select and total the sum. So all of them by the year, get a total amount. When you have, loop through them and add it to this year list that we created over here. Aside from that, with the years, we should have, or you could have added this straight ahead to this year list here. Okay, this is the last year data, or this is the year data. You could have added it over here, but I don't want to do that because you want to order it within a year. So from 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, etc. So that's how we're doing the order by. This order by is in ascending order. So 2010, 11, 12, 13, etc. Moving on. All right. So now we have this. We have to populate for these 3 methods over here. Now, where are these methods? Let's see where we can find them. So let's see. Now there's a method that we need to talk about before we get up to these 3 methods. And that is if I click on add expenses, I want to navigate to this page and I'm passing the parameter of 1. Remember that if I go to manage expenses, it's accepting a parameter over here. Okay, so it's accepting a parameter over here. And now that parameter, we are making a check over here. So that's the parameter. So they're going to be the variable. And now here we are saying that, let's see, on parameter changes. And if the ID is 1, definitely we know that the ID is 1. But I want to check that so that if you pass in any number, it won't display. So if you pass in ID is 1, then you want to show the dialog box. And now show the dialog box. So that's when the ID is 1. Okay, so it's going to navigate us to the manage page, and I'll show the dialog box. That's what this is doing. All right, so now let's populate for these funds. Now, first of all, we have to have this simple method, or a method that these are the declarations. So let's put them here from this index. And now down here, so we are going to populate the expenses, the last week, the variable fund. So these are what the methods are going to do. Okay, so first of all, the first method we're going to have is add fund. That is when we add fund to this, what should happen? Add fund. You can see here we are doing add fund. So if I click on add fund button, they show this dialog box, and I'm trying to accept it. If I close the dialog box, then hide the dialog box. Okay, don't display. But if I click on save, if I pass in the fund and I click on save, you know this fund is returning some numbers 1 to up to 4 or 5. So we're going to use this. So as soon as I click on handle event, and if my fund amount equal to 0, you want to display this to the user. In case it is not, then call this service. And at the output that is coming in here, check if it is case 1. You're using the switch statement. If it is case 1, then show this one, fund added. If it is case 2, then fund updated. If it is case 3 or 4, then you see 3 or 4, -1, they all have errors here. So this is what going to be displayed to the user. All right, you see we have this method that we also need to do. It is calling the same get available fund and also hide. This hide is going to hide the dialog box as soon as the user tries to add any. So the next one here is to hide and get available funds. So to get available funds, this is what we are doing. So hide method is going to hide this dialog box over here. Now get available funds, you're going to get this fund from the service, from the service over here. And if fund is greater than 0, then we are going to check or going to sum up the amount field. So we can have all the amount within the month. Okay, because available fund here, it is talking about the whole amount of fund that you have, not necessarily limited to this month or last month. Any amount that you have added to your application is going to grab it over there. Okay, but this amount, we did not tackle this amount because I didn't want to increase the length of this video. Okay, so just display the amount just the amount. Maybe you can decide to check at the end of the month, you should go in there and deduce or deduct or subtract the amount that you need to pay from this fund. And I know the current fund that you have, are you going to negative or is it positive? So you can actually do that with it. And maybe for me to continue with this mini project too, with this specific one, maybe you can let me know too. Okay, so we can see what we're going to do. Now, the next one that we're going to talk about here is a get yesterday and also get last week expenses. So, once you have the mother table, this month, we can extract it from this month. You can see we are extracting from the date -1 to get yesterday. And last week, we want to take 7. So we are using this tick. So arrange by descending from highest, that's the date, and I'll take 7. And now populate it, sum the amount, and then display. All right, so that's for that. And now this is for, we are on the length of the note. So this is for note. Let me just grab the note 1. So this is for the note. We are done with the fund. Now for this note, this is for note. So we create public note, and I can see we are creating a list of notes to handle the note. We have this dialog box to show as well. When note date changes, you want to handle it and assign the value to this note property. Now if I click on add note, I want to call this service, and now in case it is true, return this. Okay, now hide the dialog box. In case it is false, in case error occurred, display the error as alert. Now in case I click on close note handle, hide the note. In case I click on add note, show this note pop up. And in case I click on handle note delete, passing the ID, and now call this delete note. And when you're done, refresh the page. Now where from these buttons link to, when we check the note section, let's see, do you have this get available funds? We could see we have this method still underlined. It's saying that it does not exist. Let's see, there's a method from here. And hide method. That's the hide method here. Okay, so let's see. Yeah. And I believe this should work. Maybe because we are running let's stop this and it's going to work. Okay, when we check up here, you can see that from our list, we all have these ones, and that is a value change. We call this method, and these are the property that we use for the note. Now, when we check from this fund, we have the same thing for the fund 2 over here. And now when you come here, you can see we are looping to my note, and now we're displaying the note over here, the content that the note has. This is a button. In case I click on add note, I want to show the dialog box, so you're going to call this note method. And now let's see. And the next one is, these are the charts that we are displaying. And here, if we check this, we have these as, where from this? Let's see, available funds. So here we are displaying this available fund here. And that is the first one that displayed at the last bottom of the card. Okay. So, and if I click on add fund, this is going to happen. I'm going to click on this add fund, and the dialog was going to pop up for me to add a fund to it. And now when you go to the first one here, that's where we're going to make some calculations here to get yesterday expenses. And I can see from the table, you can see we have this progress bar from this Syncfusion, not the Syncfusion, Bootstrap. Okay, so we need to calculate for the weight and now the value now. So in doing so, when you check that is the rules for this progress bar, it starts from 0, 25, 50, 75, and 100. These are the rate that it needs to take. So we have to check it over here and now assign. So we are saying the result is 0, the rate must be 0. If the result is greater than 0 and it is less than 25%, you can see we are finding the percentages over here. So based on the percentage, set the weight. We did the same thing to the last week. So we find the percentage of this. Based on the percentage, find the weight and now set the weight over here. So we can have that progress bar loaded, filled up to that level. So that's what we are doing over here. So you can just clone this project and I'm trying to go through and you're going to get it as well. It's a very simple one as well. Okay, so you see we are having this month. So this month we are summing only the amount of this, and I are telling the user that this is the amount to pay for this month. Now if I click on add expenses, I call this event. Like you see, this is a button known as add expenses. Now the event has been stated down here as add expenses, and that is exactly what we are doing to add the expenses. It is down here. Add expenses. Let's check it out. So there's an add note. There's a handle one. Let's check if we can find this add expenses. So there's an add fund. There's an add expenses. So we navigate to the page and pass in the parameter. All right. So now we have this. Let's save this and now let's try to build this application and see if we have any error in it. We try to correct it. Then we run. Just like you see that it is succeeded. Now that we have this red line, don't worry. What we're going to do here is close this and now let's open it again. I don't know the reason why it is doing that, but as soon as you open it again, you can see that issues, they are all gone. You see, they are all gone. No issue now. Okay, so let's minimize this so we can see. So I'm going to minimize them. Okay. All right, so that's what we are doing. Now let's find this application and see what we have. All right, so let's see. So we can see we have this here. By this one, let me continue on. Right? So we have to register a license key for this. You can just get a free license key. If you don't know how to do this, check the description. I'll leave a video on it how to claim current license key so we can use. But I have a key, so I'm going to add it to this project so we can see what we have in here. Alright, so you can see it is now loaded, and that is a page of expense tracker dashboard. Now you can see we have an image here. I added one image, but I forgot to add it. Now let's see. So Solution Explorer. Now if I go to this place, I can just add this folder, and that is an image. It contains this load icon, and that looks like a symbol. So let's see. So here, if I now refresh this, I have to see that image here. Yeah, that's the image that I have. This is an image, okay? It is not designed as an image. All right, so update fund, you can do that. Now let's see, we have no fund, so let's update fund here. And let's say I have this amount like 4,500.99. Can add that, add fund. And now you can see fund added, and it's going to pop up over here. So there's a fund for the whole this month. Now add expenses. If I click on add expenses, you can see from here today, yesterday, and last week, no data. Monthly, no charts. Yearly, no charts. Yearly expenditure, nothing here. Note taken, nothing here. You can add notes. Okay, so let's choose a note here. Let's say it is today. So today, and that's today's note. Click on add. Note saved. Close it, and actually you have the notes added here. You can also delete it as well. It is off. Okay, then the next thing is, let's see. So add expenses. It has to navigate us to the page where we can add expenses. So you can see this pop up already. And let's say there's an electricity bill, and we are doing it for, let's say, choose today's month. Add, saved. You see it is off, and it's going to be over here. Let's add one more. So the same electricity bill. And we want to add for last month. So instead of this month, you're going to say from August. And let's save that. Let's add the same thing for this electricity bill. So let's choose for maybe last year, 2022, any month. Click on add. Now save that. Okay, now let's add 1 month. Let's add yesterday's on. So let's say house keeping money, and let's say it is 126 Let's choose for yesterday's. All right, so this today 25th, yesterday was 24th. So add it, save. Now let's go to the home and now let's see the dashboard. Yeah, so you can see it's not populating for us. So you can see after only 2 years, 2022, 2023, these are the expenses that we made. And you can see this amount that we need to pay for the month. And this amount that we have. So you can see with this plus this must give you the amount that you have here. And you can see for yesterday's amount, this is what you have. For last week, you have this amount, 2021 for last week, and that's what you have over here. And this is a graph. And now you can also add notes, some notes. Let's see. Okay, so you can just add something like this. Notes, save it. Yeah, and you have the notes as well. Okay, so that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. You can just click on this and it takes you back. Yeah, got it. If you haven't subscribed, if you like what I'm doing, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know the lecture mode. If I'm rushing too much, I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but I'm going to spend like 1 hour, 7 minutes. I want to just limit it. That is right. I was rushing. So don't worry. No. I don't know if I was rushing to you, so let me know. So in case I was rushing, maybe next time I'll take much time and also relax and I'll explain it well. Okay, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe as well, and if give me thumbs up, please check our playlist. We have a lot. All that we've done here, I'm going to also do it in the Mari application so we can install it on the mobile devices. So check it out over here. Subscribe, so as soon as I do that, you get notification to watch that as well. Remember that in this channel we focus on .NET lessons, Mari, and also Blazor. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself, and I'm going to catch you up in the next video.